Shalom, Kahala Yahweh Bashem Yashayah, Bashem Rakal Kodash. Double honors my teachers, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect. May the house of David reborn again in this generation. And Shalom to the 1/3 of Yashayah, who today are known as the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. But before losing our true heritage, we were known as, and still are, the true Hebrew Israelites of the Holy Bible. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about this false image of the person who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. And we're going to talk about his true image and his true name. But before we get into that, let's read this. This is John 14:17. Even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it seeth him not, neither knoweth him, but ye know him, for he dwelleth with you, and shall be in you. So recently, there's been a popular post on this website called Reddit, right? And if you're unfamiliar with what Reddit is, it's an aggregate news site, which for the most part is controlled by leftist fascists for the most part, man. These are basically the kids of Babylon the Great, man. This is where you get the majority of them that gather. Now, recently, this post came out here, which is a bunch of bullshit, right? But we'll go ahead and just read the title and then I'll break it down. But it says, Portrait of Jesus using AI incorporating what we know of his ethnicity and culture for time and region, right? And what you have here is basically an image of an Ishmaelite, a so-called Arab. Okay, first of all, this does not coincide with the description given of the Messiah when you read Revelations, right? Verse 1, chapter 13. Right, this is somebody who has been made up, right? Because we all know that for the longest, for centuries, you've had this devil here on the left being pushed as the image of the Messiah, right? And ultimately, this is the uplifting of Edomite supremacy, right? So-called Caucasian supremacy, right? But this image no longer lulls the masses to sleep, right? Everybody understands that the Caucasians weren't in the so-called Middle East around 33 BC or 33 AD, excuse me, right? They understand that he couldn't have looked like this, right? And everybody understands this is somewhat of an American Jesus, right? The image that has helped to perpetuate this Edomite supremacy across the world, right? There's even a video, a scene from a show called Goodbye Uncle Tom that talks about this. Now, these devils, not trying to point to the true image of the Messiah, now they're starting to push out images like this, of this guy, right? Right, let's see what people are saying, right? Because a lot of people aren't even buying this shit, though. But though this is a convenient lie for the masses, right? People are saying, it looks like my buddy Atif, right? It says, that's my neighbor Amin. He's really chill. Look at this, man. See? Excuse me, sir, but you have been randomly selected for additional screening, right? So you see, people understand that this right here image is a so-called Arab, man, right? This is not what a Judite looks like, man, right? And everybody out there believes that the so-called Jews over in the land of Israel today are the Judites of the Bible, but that's false, right? Because they also do not fit the descriptions or the prophecies written in the Bible, right? But you know, this isn't the first time that these devils have done it, right? As far as changing the images and depictions of the people in the Bible, right? It's actually recorded here in First Maccabees that shows that these devils have tried to paint their own images, their own likenesses into our, Holy Bible, right? This is First Maccabees 3:48. And laid open the book of the law, which is the Bible, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images, right? So you see, this is why you have so many false Bibles and so many different interpretations and different versions, right? Because you see these devils, in an attempt to sway and modify the word of the Lord, they've done things like this. They've sought to paint their likeness, their images, their own story into the Bible. And why is that? Because when you get into what the Holy Bible actually is, it is a book only meant for the Israelites, right? It was written by the Israelites, for the Israelites, and still till today, it's only to the Israelites, which today we would be known as the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, right? And anybody whose father's lineage goes back to that bloodline. Well, let's go and read what the true depiction of the Messiah is, right? Not going off of AI and what do they say? These bullshit claims, incorporating what we know of his ethnicity, and that's bullshit, man. Because when you get into Josephus, you get into the Bible itself, it tells you, man, that the ethnicity of the people in there were dark-skinned people, right? They were black onto the ground. Their skin was like brass, as if it was burnt in the furnace, right? A lot of people understood that the people in this land were so-called Negroes, okay? But again, let's just read the Bible, and let's go to the depiction of the one that the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, whose true Hebrew name is Yashayah, which is Hebrew for he is salvation. Well, let's read. This is Revelations 1-13. And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, right, this is the menorah, one like unto the Son of Man, right, basically John seen the Messiah, right, the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and a girt about the paps with a golden girdle, right? His head and his hairs, right, the top of his head, his hair on the top of his head, and his beard were white, like wool. So it was white, and it was like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire. Now we understand when it says flame of fire, he didn't literally have, flames in his eyes. Now what this ultimately meant, this is a prophecy that said that the Lord, that his eyes would be red with wine, right? When you drink a lot of wine, right, your eyes are always going to be bloodshot, man. And that's ultimately what was going on with the Lord. Because you see, the Lord was vexed with all the things that were going on, right? With the things that he knew he would have to do. That whole Hollywood depiction of the Messiah being a soft-spoken man, gliding everywhere he went, and being soft-spoken and always looking like he's ready for his, glamour shots. That's a false depiction, right? The Messiah, Yashayah, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, was a real man, right? He had real problems. He had stress. He had all these things, man, right? It tells you, man, that the Lord was vexed, right? In the Garden of Gethsemane, he was praying and he wept, and he was hoping that the Lord would take his path away from him, because he didn't want to have to go through what he wanted to, right? But what did he do? He sucked it up and he went through with it, man, right? He also dealt with mass multitudes of our people who were just ignorant, man, couldn't get it, didn't understand what was happening, right? He was dealing with wicked Pharisees and Sadducees that were corrupting the word, using the temple of the Lord as a market. The Lord was vexed all the time, and he would drink, right? And hence his eyes would be bloodshot, and that's what this flame of fire means. Now here's the point. And his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burnt in a furnace, right? And his voice as the sound of many waters. Now let's go ahead and focus on this part, right? His feet were the color of fine brass, as if they burnt in a furnace. Okay, now I want you to, picture somebody, right? Picture somebody's feet. Now, does a person's feet match the rest of their skin color, or is it a totally different color, right? And no, the Lord didn't go walking through dirt or mud like these other, devil Christians will try to say. No, man, this was the color of the Messiah's skin, right? Let's take a look at what fine brass looks like, right? So his feet, there you go, right? They had this type of patina to it, right? A dark brown, right? And when you burn brass, right? This is a burnt brass lantern. This is the color of what burnt brass looks like, okay? And when you get into his hair being like wool, right? This is what it looks like, right? This is what the Lord's hair would resemble, right? Not this, right? Not this stringy, brown hair, right? He didn't have, this type of, beard that looked like, not like wool at all, right? And this is not fine brass burnt in a furnace, man. This is light brown, right? A light, what would you call this, man? Like dark skin, right? But basically looking like a Latino skin, man, right? This is a standard Israelite skin, man. But you see, these devils, what they'll do is they'll lie and they'll make up depictions and everything. Because why? Because they're ultimately trying to hide the truth. And what is that truth? The truth is that the Messiah was a so-called Negro. He was a man of color, right? And this is more of a depiction of what he would actually look like, right? A so-called, black guy, right? And this is what the world does not want the rest of the unlearned masses to learn, is that the so-called Negroes are in fact the true Jews of the Bible, right? That they who have had the downtrodden luck that they've had for the last hundreds of years, right? The continual slavery, the being refugees in the land of Africa, right? The Negroes that are here in America today, they didn't come from Africa. They were refugees in Africa, and they were taken as slaves, sold in by their enemies, the true Africans, the Hamites as they're referred to in the Bible, and they were sold to the Arabs or the Edomites, right? Because again, you had the sub-Saharan slave trade, man. You had a lot of Arabs and Hamites, right? That would basically capture Judah on the west coast and basically all over Africa, right? And then they would basically take them to the ports to sell them, right? And who was the number one buyer of Judah? Well, the Edomites, the so-called Caucasian race. This is why you have the so-called Negroes all over here in America, man, because they were brought here in slavery, fulfilling Deuteronomy 28:68, that the Lord would bring the Israelites back in bondage by ships, right? Back into Egypt by ships, right? He did this to the Southern Kingdom, right? And the so-called Negroes, and he did this to the Northern Kingdom, the so-called Latinos and Native Americans, man, right? Because again, the Native Americans, the Latinos and the Indians, they came over here on ships around 700 BC, right? When they decided to come to the unknown lands to try to keep their laws. Now, when we got here, it's unknown for sure, but going into alternate sources, the Mormon Bible, for example, right, and also Indian legend, right, whatever has been survived from the destruction from the Spaniards, we lived in a Eden-like existence, but then it ultimately devolved into what the Spanish found when they came here, man. We were sacrificing each other, worshiping demons, right? And ultimately it led to our enslavement, right? So us, Northern Kingdoms, Latinos and Native Americans, we followed suit, the Southern Kingdom followed suit after us, the Northern Kingdom, man. We both went into slavery here in the Americas, right? And we are going to be here under this captivity until the Messiah, this man you see here, returns, right? And again, it's not only the Messiah that has this image, right? Because again, this is more of a true depiction of what the Messiah would look like, right? Having a garment, a beryl, right? Beryls of like a particular color of green, right? With the golden girdle around his like stomach areas. This is basically a war girdle, right? Coming on that white horse. That white horse represents what the world will call a UFO, right? And again, this isn't the only depiction of a so-called black Jesus, right? Because when you look at history, right, here it says true depiction of Israel, right? Here are this is from a painting in a church in Russia called the Cathedral of the Annunciation in Moscow, right? When you look at the depictions here, let's actually zoom in. You can see the pictures of all the saints, all the people, right? All the people in the Bible are all so-called black people, man. All so-called Negroes. And why is that? Well, because the Bible is written about the Negroes, man. Look at this, right? King David, right? Look at these people here, man. These are all so-called Negroes, okay? And this image here is an image of the Lord, like it tells you here in Solomon, Wisdom of Solomon 3:1. But the souls of the righteous are in the hand of God, and there shall no torment touch them. Right? And you see that the brother Tazadak brought this image out of I think last week, right, or 2 weeks ago, man. But this is an image from the Russian icons, man. And how did these images get into this Russian cathedral? Well, you see, back in the days, right, back in Moscow, or back in the day, Moscow, here, this used to be an area around here. It was basically the Holy Roman Empire was right here, right? And the Rush, which were basically up in this area here, you know, they basically followed them, man. They were a Christian nation, man, and they understood that the so-called Negroes were the Israelites, right? This is why they paid them veneration and honor, right? Because again, you had the down here you had the Byzantine Empire, which was the Eastern Roman Empire after it split, and then you had the Holy Roman Empire, which was over here, you know, modern day Germany, right? Which was, or over around this area here, right? This is where the Holy Roman Empire was, that eventually migrated west to Spain, right? And by the time that Christopher Columbus, you know, started sailing and he got all the money from Spain and the Queen of Spain, those were the remnants of the Western Roman Empire, man, the Holy Roman Empire, right? But again, these were all so-called Negroes, but by that time, they had mixed with other nations and they had become what you would refer to as a mulatto, right? You know, basically people who were mixed with you know, Negro and Caucasian and all these different type of races, man. And you had what you would basically, like, they would look like Puerto Ricans for the most part, right? That's pretty much what the people at the time of the Middle Ages or Dark Ages would look like, man. But again, when you go back to the Russian icons, right, you see the Israelites, right, being depicted as so-called Negroes, right? And that is because the Negro are the Israelites of the Holy Bible, right? This is the president of Egypt talking about the depiction of the Israelites, man. Because you see, again, this is not a secret, right? This is a worldwide, you know, hidden secret, I guess you could, well, maybe it is a secret, right? It's a secret, you know, to the majority of the world, but there's a lot of people who know it, like this man here, right? It says the war for Israel. It says, when he was asked about peace in the Middle East, the late president of Egypt, Gamal Abdel Nasser, stated, the Jews will never be able to live here in peace because they left here black but came back white, right? And this is in regards to the so-called Jews who, or the Israelis who are living in the land of Israel today, man. People, all the Arabs around there, the ones who haven't been sold out or infiltrated, they understand that the people in the land of Israel today are not the Israelites or the Jews of the Holy Bible, man. This is Matthew 24:30. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. You see, the reason why the world is going to be mourning is not only is it going to be an incredible sight to see a vast armada of so-called UFOs coming in from space, but also people are going to see that the Messiah is a so-called black man. They're going to see that he's not some pasty white-skinned Caucasian or some freaking nice-looking Arab and stuff. Some benevolent, all-loving, can never get mad Ishmaelite. No, man. People are going to realize that this whole time that they've been worshiping a false god. That they've been worshiping one of these images, man. Right? And it's because the world right now does not have the spirit of truth in it, man. It is being led by the devil. And the devil has misled many people, right? To the point where, the people who actually look into it, who actually study the Bible, who want to learn the truth, who want to try to do the best they can to, save themselves in these end days, they're going to find out that the true Israelites are Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, plain and simple. We fit the prophecies. Our history declares it. It's just the truth, right? Now, the people who are just going willy-nilly, thinking that they got this in the bag, and that when the day comes, they're just going to fall to their knees and repent, and then they'll be all good. No, because what's going to happen is they're going to realize that everything they've known about the Bible, or what they think they know about the Bible, is false. It's lies, right? And ultimately, this is going to be a big deception. And the reason why the world, all the tribes of the earth shall mourn, right? Because it's going to be a terrible day for these devils out here who are posting shit like this, right? Saying that this is what the Lord looks like, that AI has put it together and all this bullshit. But this is a freaking lie. This is blasphemy, man. To say that the Messiah, right, the man of the tribe of Judah, and the Judites and the true Jews look like freaking Arabs, man. This is an abominable lie that these devils perpetuate, man. But I just wanted to get into this, Aki. I wanted to, address this blasphemous post, right, and show, man, this is the true depiction of the one who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, whose true Hebrew name is Yashayah, which is Hebrew for his salvation. So, with all that, I want to give all praises and honor and glory to Yahweh, Bashem Yashai, Bashem Kodash. Double honors my teachers, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect. Shalom.